What's poppin', y'all? I am Tista and I am back again with another second round predictions video. If you didn't see my Eastern Conference second round predictions, it is over on another video. It's in my NBA playlist. And let's just say my Bucks predictions are not going well, but hopefully the ones that I will set in stone right here in this video itself will go well. We have the Suns and the Nuggets on one hand, then the Clippers and the Jazz. And by the way, if you're wondering, yes, I do make more content that centers around the NBA realm or stratosphere. So if you're into that, don't forget to leave a subscribe and go check out my other videos in my playlist link down below. So with that, let's get into my hot takes, hot picks, and predictions. If you're not really a casual NBA fan, I bet that you'd already suppose that this battle with two small market teams in Phoenix and Denver will somewhat come down to a war of attrition. Of course, Jamal Murray is out for the season, and we all know that. And I think Will Barton isn't fully healthy as well. But on the Phoenix side, you have their main catalyst in the offensive end, and just a guy who's led many turnarounds, Chris Paul, who I don't think is 100% either. So that's worth noting of. But it's still obvious that the Nuggets have suffered a more massive blow than the Suns, with their second best player out for the entirety of the postseason. What really should be praised about their Suns is how versatile they are. They are both top 10 in offense and defense throughout the entire league. And with that, presumably, I'd say in this series the Suns will be dialed in, very dialed in defensively. They have two wing guys who could guard really well, in Jay Crowder and Mikal Bridges, and have all sorts of weapons to throw against Denver. And from the bench, their role players like Campaign, Cameron Johnson, and guys like, as I said earlier, Bridges and Crowder. They're all going to be severe X factors to possibly overwhelm the Nuggets, ailing without their offensive juggernaut in the backcourt. So that's going to make life easier for them, but that doesn't mean the job will be half cruising and just half-assed, because this Nuggets team is very prone to adversity and more prone to overcoming it. So they should be taking this seriously. Regardless of your perception of Chris Paul, and regardless of how his injury has somewhat stagnated his box score offerings, you must still admit that he is a floor general. Okay, so he will still play a monumental piece in this whole 7-game series, in spite of however or how healthy he would be. He would still be a main contributor. And I don't think if you're an actual NBA fan, you wouldn't be disagreeing with this, obviously. And Devin Booker, he is just evolving in front of our eyes. And he might have a little bit of a barbecue matchup with Austin Rivers. I really think the Nuggets should switch on better defenders on D-Book and try to stay as much as on him, because if he just gets going, it might turn ugly real quick, because the Nuggets, they may have offensive weapons, but can they cater or just level up to the same efficiency that the Suns team brings? I'm not sure about that either. I don't think a lot of people are paying attention to this Chris Paul and Facu Campazzo matchup. And yeah, Paul may get the better of him in the whole series, and I wouldn't be surprised because he's a superstar. But this Campazzo guy, this guard out of Argentina, who just stands 5'10", you shouldn't be sleeping on him or just diminishing his ability just because of his miniature stature for an NBA player, because he plays with a lot of hustle, heart, and scrappiness. And I know personally, as a Chris Paul fan, that shit gets into Chris Paul's head. So you better watch out for that as well. Another very stellar matchup, a heavyweight one down in the post, would be DeAndre Ayton and Nikola Jokic. I have a feeling that whoever would get their adversary into foul trouble more, and whoever would get more involved in defense, would be more vital in this series. We all know Jokic has an innate ability to score and to play make, so that means he could space out the floor and bring Ayton out there with him, which would make life easier for his supporting cast and guys such as Michael Porter and Aaron Gordon, who needs to have consistent games to give the Nuggets a chance. Because as what I said earlier, Austin Rivers and that Campazzo backcourt of the Nuggets wouldn't be able to cut it against a CP3 Booker combo. Denver will need to massively adjust to the Suns' offense, which surrounds way more weapons than Portland. Does anyone also need to talk about how the Suns are not the Blazers in terms of defense, who cannot even guard a single statue out there? Denver may have very adaptable players and are still relatively talented without Murray, but from him being out, it will take a Herculean effort against a powerhouse offensive and defensive team and the Suns. All the matchups somewhat goes Phoenix way. As I said, in the backcourt and in Bridges and Crowder against Gordon and MPJ, that Suns combo just provides way more versatility. Aiden Jokic, of course Jokic takes that, but we'll never know. Let's see how Monty Williams adjusts. Who would be able to take a matchup against the MVP, alright? It's all the matter of trying to overcome that. The bench, mob, and the coaching as well goes towards the Suns' way. Aside, as you said, everything goes in the Suns' direction in terms of favorable matchups, except for that center matchup. With that, I'm picking Phoenix in 6. Essentially seeing that my prediction in the Bucks and Nets series has somewhat aged like spoiled milk, and that's not saying that I do not have hope in the Bucks going back. I still somewhat do. I still really think that they could step up and just turn it up a notch. But with the Bucks being down 2-0, I really think this series itself will become the more entertaining matchup out of all set to 4 matchups in the conference semis. So the Clippers just came out of a very grueling 7-game first round series, and the short span of rest may either go their way or not. They just survived a one-man army team in the Luka Mavericks. So essentially, in terms of their efficiency, nearly everyone that the Clippers play was very effectively efficient this year. You want to run Reggie Jackson and Marcus Morris off the 3-point line and force them to shoot from inside, preferably, as they are more regarded as spot-up shooters for the Clippers. But that's going to be a hard thing to do while still trying to put Kawhi Leonard and Paul George's body in front of you. Only Ivica Zubac and if Serge Ibaka does come back are safe to allow to shoot from distance. So that's really dangerous. And this is counting the fact that Rajon Rondo has somewhat been a mediocre shooter. But with that, they are a very deadly team from outside. They're the league's best 3-point shooting team in terms of efficiency, from both the corners and above the break. But thanks to the expertise of PG and Kawhi, they're also one of the league's best mid-range teams. So pick your poison. So what can you do to slow that down for Utah? One of the main downfalls of this Clippers squad has been their lack of playmaking. And of the 16 playoff teams this far, they're ranked 16th in potential assists created per game and their playoff action thus far. So Utah needs to find a way to stay relevant on the defensive end when Gobert comes off the floor. That has been a major problem that I spotted and perceived. Gobert, on the other hand, needs to stay very disciplined to not commit any fouls against talented shot makers. This isn't Memphis anymore. This is a very scary Clippers team who could shoot. The Jazz's offense was very consistent in its 3 regular season games against the Clippers. They had an 116 offensive rating in the first matchup and then 114 offensive rating in the latter 2. That is pretty steady, and that's a good type of steady. They could thrive if the Clips put bigs on the floor like Zubac and Ibaka, because the Jazz have a great knack on attacking, in credit to the very good spacing on the floor, credit to the shooters on that roster, while the pick and roll, that lethal, deadly marksman pick and roll combo of Conley and Donovan Mitchell, or even Joe Ingles at times, can prove to be stellar, absolutely fantastic when done right. The Clippers still, Tyronn Lue has showed that he could make adjustments, so they could still go small, and they've definitely shown that. That adjustment allowed them to hang around and survive against the Mavericks. So don't be dumbfounded if we see deja vu on size adjustments. Clarkson and Ingles, if Utah really wants to make this a quick series or even a close one in general, needs Clarkson and that Ingles combo to be just good. They weren't at their best in the first round series, as Clarkson only shot 40% from the field and 23% from deep, with about 3 turnovers per game. And looking at Clarkson, he really needs to step up offensively in this series, as he will absolutely be torn to shreds in the defensive end. Ingles, on the other hand, was a very good pest eroded against Paul George in that 2018 Thunder Jazz series. So the Jazz really has to hope and beg on their knees that we're gonna see a repeat of this. Granted that Utah exploits the Clippers' poor playmaking, Gobert plays heavy minutes whilst executing in the defensive end, and with him staying out of foul trouble and being more of a factor offensively, especially with O'Neal and Clarkson and Ingles bringing their A games and what they should be able to do. I actually see the Jazz taking this in 7. It's a tough call. It could go both ways, but Utah, I think, will take the cake.